Привет, друзья, and welcome back to Be Fluent in Russian podcast. Today we have a special podcast. As always, I guess they're all special in their own way, because today I won't be telling a story about myself. I'll be telling a story about Lenin. And Lenin is one of the most important figures in Russian history. You may think of him as a bad figure or negative figure or a positive figure. As anything in politics, during one time you are regarded as being something good for the people. During another term is going to be negative influence. But regardless of the fact if it's negative or positive, there's been a lot of influence that he's had on the way Russia is today. And there were a lot of critical moments during his reign in USSR and things like that. And if you don't know anything about Lenin, let me read a little bit of a story about him from Wikipedia and his description, his main facts about him. He was a Russian revolutionary, politician, and political theorist. He served as the first and founding head of government of Soviet Russia from 1917 to 1924, and the Soviet Union from 1922 to 1924. Under his administration, Russia and later the Soviet Union became a one-party socialist state governed by the Communist Party. Ideologically a Marxist, his developments to the ideology of Marxism are called Leninism. Okay, so you might have heard the term Leninism, and that's because of his kind of, I guess, take on Marxism. Now that you know a little bit about him, let's read a short story that was written about him in 1939. And this is a story from a book that was written for kids. Mind you, 1939 is still Soviet Union, right? So you have to kind of take in the fact of the propaganda, of the positive way that this story is written, and the negative kind of attitude toward the bad people in this story. And of course, this is a story about his assassination, about Lenin's assassination. And you might feel a sense of propaganda in this story, and it is going to be there 100%. This is a time, it was written during the time of the Soviet Union still. So it's not going to be maybe the most truthful sometimes, but that's not our point of the story really. It's not about whether the facts of the story are true or not, if they've been more kind of shown in a more positive way. We just simply have to understand the fact that it was written during the time of Soviet Union, and that it will have a certain kind of energy toward Lenin and a certain energy toward his opponents. Okay, this story is about B1 level. Overall B1, if you are a B1 student, you will understand this in its entirety. If you're A1 to A2, if you're A1, you will understand about 60%. If you're a A2 student, you'll understand about maybe 70%. Okay? But regardless, we're still gonna break down the whole text and translate it and learn crucial words from the story. So, Lenin's assassination. У Ленина было много врагов. У него было много врагов, потому что он хотел заново переделать всю жизнь. Он хотел, чтобы все люди, которые работают, жили бы очень хорошо. И он не любил тех, кто не работает. Он про них сказал: пусть они вообще ничего не кушают, если не хотят работать. Это многим не понравилось. И враги Ленина непременно хотели его убить. Убить, by the way, this is going to be very crucial for the story. Убить means to kill. Убить. И они подговорили одну злодейку убить великого вождя трудящихся, Владимира Ильича Ленина. Они дали ей револьвер. Зарядили этот револьвер ядовитыми пулями. И сказали этой мерзкой злодейке: иди на завод. Там сегодня Ленин будет выступать с речью. И когда он закончит свою речь и выйдет из зала, ты подойди к нему и выстрели в него 3 или 4 раза. И она так и сделала. Она оделась в черное платье, взяла револьвер и пошла на тот завод, где выступал Ленин. И когда Ленин после речи выходил во двор, какой-то человек, переодетый матросом, нарочно упал у входа. И этим он задержал всех рабочих, которые шли за Лениным. И благодаря этому Ленин один вышел во двор и один подошел к автомобилю, чтобы в него сесть. Но в этот момент женщина в черном платье подошла к Ленину совсем близко и 4 раза выстрелила в него. 4 раза выстрелила в него. She shot him 4 times. И из 4 пуль 2 пули попали в Ленина. И Ленин упал, тяжело раненый. У него было пробито легкое и ранена рука. Женщина бросилась бежать, но ее задержали и отправили в тюрьму. Рабочие подбежали к Ленину, и многие из них плакали. Рабочие подняли Ленина и посадили его в автомобиль. И когда автомобиль поехал, люди сняли с Ленина пальто и пиджак и веревкой перевязали руку, чтобы кровь не текла так сильно. Машина въехала в Кремль и остановилась у подъезда ленинской квартиры. Тяжело раненый Владимир Ильич с огромным трудом вышел из машины, и люди поддерживали его, чтобы он не упал. Long story, but we're almost there. Подбежали рабочие и хотели понести Ленина на руках в его квартиру. Но Ленин не позволил им это сделать. Он сказал: «Нет, не надо меня нести на руках. Моя сестра и моя жена увидят, что меня несут на руках, и подумают, что мне очень плохо. Не надо их тревожить». И все окружающие поразились, что Ленин в такой страшный момент думает не о себе, а о других людях. That's it. All right? Long story, but you might have heard some words that you know. You might have learned some new words from context. Who knows? And this story is about Lenin's assassination, of course. And this story, again, remind you, is for kids story. And so I guess it's perfect for learners as well, because it's going to have a clear emotional attachment. It's going to paint things in a more emotional way, because as for kids, it has to make larger impression. And there's going to be a few words that are going to be new to you, I'm sure. So let's break it down sentence by sentence and go a bit faster, I guess. I'm not going to be reading as slow as I just did. We can go a bit faster because we're going to translate. У Ленина было много врагов. Lenin had many enemies. So, у Ленина было, Lenin had. У него было много врагов. So, it's just going to say the same thing. He had many enemies. Потому что он хотел заново переделать всю жизнь. Because he wanted to redo the whole life. So I guess for the kids, it's hard to understand exactly what Lenin was trying to do. I guess this sentence is better translated because he wanted to change the way people lived. Okay? But заново переделать всю жизнь, to redo the whole life anew, kind of a thing. Он хотел, чтобы все люди, которые работают, жили бы очень хорошо. He wanted that all people that worked lived very well. Okay, socialist mentality again. So он хотел, чтобы все люди, he wanted that every person or all people. So чтобы is a word to mean he wanted for people to, or in order to, kind of for the meaning of чтобы. And then, и он не любил тех, кто не работает. И он не любил тех, he didn't love, тех, кто не работает, those who don't work. Он про них сказал, he said this about them. Пусть они вообще ничего не кушают, если не хотят работать. Let them not eat at all. Don't let them eat at all if they don't want to work. Again, socialist mentality where everybody has to work or it's illegal not to work pretty much, if you're not too familiar with how that worked. If you didn't work, that was considered to be illegal. That you are, you're not being valuable to the society, you're only taken from the society. That's kind of the belief of that regime. Это многим не понравилось. Many people didn't like this. Многие means the majority or a lot of people. A lot of people didn't like this. I guess not the majority, but many people. И враги Ленина непременно хотели его убить. And Lenin's enemies certainly wanted to kill him. Непременно means certainly or right away or immediately. Непременно. Хотели его убить, they wanted to kill him. And они подговорили одну злодейку. And they persuaded or they talked one evil person, or a translation on Yandex gives me villainess. Villainess is like a female villain. Villainess. I never heard that word before. But they talked one evil lady. Убить великого вождя трудящихся. To kill the great leader of the working class. Владимира Ильича Ленина. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. So, let's break this one down. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin is a full name of Lenin. So, in English we have Vladimir Lenin, right? So, name, last name. Sometimes a person, I guess not sometimes, but almost all the time, a person is going to have a middle name in the States, for example. And in Russia, we have not a middle name, but a patronymic. It means just that your middle name is, you don't choose it. You don't really have a choice to have two names. The patronymic is given to you depending on the name of your father. So Vladimir is his first name. Ilyich is his patronymic. And Ilyich just means that his father was Ilya. And Ilyich is the patronymic made from the name Ilya. And Lenin, of course, is his last name. Sometimes you might hear people refer to Lenin as Vladimir Ilyich, which is Vladimir Ilyich. And that's kind of how we refer to people of respect. We don't really refer to others as Lenin in person. We refer to them as their first name plus patronymic. Okay, that's like a sign of respect. Because if you only call a person Vladimir, that's not going to be respectful. That's what you call maybe like your friend, or if you don't know somebody's patronymic. But because he was, the ruler, and he was the leader of the party, you refer to him as respectfully as you can, Vladimir Ilyich. And you will hear that a lot, even now, people refer to him like that. And it's not considered to be, it's just like his other name, I guess. And people refer to him like that. So that's that. Then, они дали ей револьвер. You might understand the word revolver. That means a revolver. Они дали ей револьвер. They gave her a revolver. Зарядили этот револьвер ядовитыми пулями. They loaded that revolver with poisonous bullets. И сказали этой мерзкой злодейке, and they said to this vile villainess, иди на завод. Go to the factory. Завод is factory. Там сегодня Ленин будет выступать с речью. Lenin will perform or will have a speech, will make a speech there today. So, там сегодня, there today, Ленин будет выступать. Lenin will perform or will be in front of the people. С речью, with a speech. So he'll make a speech in front of people there today at the factory. So again, why is he making a speech at a factory? Because he is the leader of the working class. The social party is about everybody's working and everybody gets paid similar money, I guess. And he was for the working people. Okay, it's not capitalism where he goes and speaks to the wealthiest people, all right? And yeah. И когда он закончит свою речь и выйдет из зала, and when he finishes his speech and leaves the hall or leaves the place, leaves the factory, I guess, ты подойди к нему, you come to him, и выстрели в него 3 или 4 раза. You come up to him and shoot him 3 or 4 times. Okay, 3 или 4 раза, 3 or 4 times. И она так и сделала. И она, and she, так и сделала, and she did it so. Or she did it in this way. Она оделась в черное платье. She dressed in a black dress. Yeah, I guess black dress in a black dress. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Взяла револьвер, took the revolver, и пошла на тот завод, где выступал Ленин, and went to that factory where Lenin was performing or was making a speech. И когда Ленин после речи выходил во двор, and when Lenin, after the speech, was leaving into the hall or into the, I guess, going outside, courtyard, какой-то человек, some guy or some man, переодетый матросом, disguised as a sailor, нарочно упал у входа, deliberately fell at the entrance. So when he was going outside, right, Lenin is done with his speech, going outside, some guy fell at the entrance, I guess to make this whole plan come together. И этим он задержал всех рабочих, которые шли за Лениным. And by doing that, he held all the working people behind who are following Lenin. Okay? I guess he fell behind them so they won't be going after him and this lady can come up. I'm not sure how that really worked. И благодаря этому Ленин один вышел во двор и один подошел к автомобилю, чтобы в него сесть. И благодаря этому, and because of that, or thanks to that, or due to that, благодаря этому, Ленин один вышел во двор. Lenin went to the courtyard by himself, or went outside by himself. И один подошел к автомобилю, and by himself went to the car. Чтобы в него сесть, to get in it. So he was by himself out in the courtyard to get into the car by himself. Again, imagine the situation. Everybody's leaving the factory, and some guy falls down at the entrance. And Lenin, instead of turning around to let this guy get up, he just walks straight by himself. I don't know. This is kind of a shady story. I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine this. Maybe it really did happen. I'm not trying to say that it's false, but I simply have a hard time trying to imagine this. But again, our goal here is not to make truth of this story, but to learn some words. Но в этот момент женщина в черном платье, and at that moment, a lady in the black dress, подошла к Ленину совсем близко. Came very close to Lenin. Совсем близко means very close. И 4 раза выстрелила в него. And fired at him 4 times. Or shot him 4 times. 4 раза means 4 times. 4 раза. И из 4 пуль, and out of the 4 bullets, 2 пули попали в Ленина. 2 bullets kind of reached Lenin. Попали means shot or, I guess, reached or got into Lenin's body. All right? Or yeah, hit Lenin. 2 bullets hit Lenin. Again, if she came up to him very close, fired 4 times, only 2 bullets hit him, this lady must be, blind on one eye or something. И Ленин упал, and Lenin fell, тяжело раненый, seriously wounded. У него было пробито легкое и ранена рука. He had a punctured lung and a wounded arm. Okay, so 2 bullets, one hit the arm, one hit the lungs. Женщина бросилась бежать, and the lady took off running. Но ее задержали и отправили в тюрьму. But she got detained and sent to prison. Рабочие подбежали к Ленину. The workers ran up to Lenin. И многие из них плакали. And many of them were crying. Рабочие подняли Ленина и посадили его в автомобиль. The workers lifted Lenin up and put him in a car. И когда автомобиль поехал, and when the car drove off or took off, люди сняли с Ленина пальто, people took off his coat, и пиджак, and a blazer or a jacket. И веревкой перевязали руку, and I guess stopped the blood with a rope. Tied his arm with a rope. But I guess they kind of had it like a bandage. Not a bandage. I forget what it's called, but it's like when you cut off the circulation of the arm, so you won't be bleeding out. And then it continues, чтобы кровь не текла так сильно. So the blood would not flow as much or as heavily. Because you can just, lose a lot of blood and die that way. Машина въехала в Кремль. The car entered the Kremlin. И остановилась у подъезда Ленинской квартиры. And stopped at the entrance of Lenin's apartment. Квартира is apartment. Тяжело раненый Владимир Ильич. Seriously wounded Vladimir Ilyich. Again, remember how they refer to him as first name patronymic. С огромным трудом вышел из машины. With great difficulty left the car. И люди поддерживали его, чтобы он не упал. And people supported him so that he would not fall. So he was seriously wounded, barely got out of the car, and people were holding him up so he won't be falling. Подбежали рабочие и хотели понести Ленина на руках в его квартиру. Подбежали рабочие, the workers ran up to him, и хотели понести Ленина на руках, and wanted to carry Lenin in their hands, в его квартиру, into his apartment. Но Ленин не позволил им это сделать. But Lenin did not allow them to do this. Он сказал, he said, нет, не надо меня нести на руках. No, don't carry me in your arms. Моя сестра и моя жена увидят. My sister and my wife will see this, что меня несут на руках, that I'm being carried in somebody's arms. И подумают, что мне очень плохо. And will think that I'm very ill or I'm, badly hurt. Не надо их тревожить. Don't bother them. Okay? И все окружающие поразились, что Ленин в такой страшный момент думает не о себе, а о других людях. And everybody around were surprised that Lenin in such a terrible and terrible moment is thinking about others and not himself. Again, oh my God, he's so brave. He was shot twice and he is thinking about others. Again, almost sure that this is all propaganda to say that, even at the toughest of times, he was thinking about other people and not himself. Because he was wounded and he didn't like others carrying him to the apartment, that he might be seriously, ill and just bleed out or something. No, he didn't want to do that. Again, the truth of the story is not what's concerning us here. But I hope you've learned something from this story. Lenin, in the eyes of a lot of people, was the person who brought change into Russia then and Soviet Union later. And I guess he has a more of a positive outlook. He has a more of a positive picture or reputation in the Russian community the negative. Even though that might be questionable to some, that's how people think about him now. And I hope you like the story about Lenin's assassination. And I believe there was a few more assassinations on him that he either escaped or avoided, because I'm sure that people didn't like that he was bringing in the change. And yeah. And that's it. That's all for today. And I hope that you've learned something in this podcast. Join our Beefling camp. We have the sessions twice a year. And regardless of whether you're listening to this when it came out in 2022 or later, we will still run the camps. So join us with the link that you see in the description to this podcast. Along with that link, you will see the text of the story. So you can copy it and translate it yourself and see if you can learn the words that are given in this one. And that's it. I'll see you all in the next podcast. And yeah, take care. Пока-пока.